for her perspective on the news and issues swirling around the Middle East and beyond. I'm joined now in the studio by the journalist, political affairs commentator, and Arise News analyst, Dr. Constance ikokwu. Good to see you,
Good to
Constance.
see you too. Yes, Charles.
What's your, I mean, you were listening to the two people we had, very passionate Ambassador Joe Keshi, clearly very worried about this, and also the military analyst that you just heard there. What's your latest assessment of these terrible events we see unfolding in the Middle East?
I mean, I think that the events, like you said, that are currently unfolding, I think the level of destruction, the non-stop bombardment, the deaths, over 7,000 dead now, and the
actually
shortage,
over 9,000.
Okay, the shortage of food, water, electricity, medicine. I think people watching, it's really bone chilling. And I think the greatest shock also is that the international community has been unable to even provide a temporary solution. That's undeniably shocking for a lot of people. And I think that indicates a couple of things. Number one, it says that the international community is broken totally. If at a time of tragic crisis of international level that someone cannot get together a temporary solution or ceasefire, that's a problem.
I mean, you wonder what the point of the UN is.
Exactly. It shows us that the system, the international system, that was put in place after World War II to initiate peace and to maintain international order is no longer there. It's gone. That means anyone can run amok and do whatever they can do. And so you look at the United Nations has been trying to get together a ceasefire to pass a resolution to that effect. And the big powers have been vetoing it. So you then say, is it a lame duck institution? Yeah. Yes, it's
well,
United Nations is a lame duck institution, as it is, because it cannot do anything. The UN Secretary General is screaming and shouting, and no one is listening to him. And then you come to what Ambassador Keshi said. He did say that it looks like the Israelis or the Jews have made everybody guilty of Holocaust. It's like people are tiptoeing around the topic. You go to the United States, it's difficult to talk about it. If you are in authority, you are literally cancelled. And then today, of course, we saw the House of Representatives in the US passing $14.5 billion in military aid to that country.
To Israel.
Yeah, so
I do have to make a distinction, though, between Jews and Israelites. I mean, a lot of what we're seeing is coming from the state of Israel. But there are a lot of Jews in the United States who oppose what is going on in Israel. And we've actually had some of them on this program.
You're correct. There are some of the Jewish people who oppose that. But what I'm saying is that even at that, the level of fear to go against Israel in the Western world is palpable.
That is true.
It's like, you know, they cannot do any wrong. And so I think part of the problem is also the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. When you look at him, he's a very hawkish politician, and he seems prepared to have this conflict protracted. And as long as he has a pat on the back from the Western powers,
particularly the United States.
Yes, he looks like he's going to get what he wants until whenever he decides that
But he did say today, though, that he would not consider a ceasefire until the hostages are released. Do you think Israel's thirst for vengeance would be somewhat tempered or mollified if it manages to recover many of the more than 200 people abducted by Hamas?
Perhaps that could happen. But I think it's much more than that. I mean, Hamas is also in a situation that is not easy because, like you mentioned earlier, they feel that this is their bargaining power. This is their bargaining chip. So if we give this up, what are we going to have? Yes, they have expertise in, you know, hiding in the tunnels all over Gaza, but Israel also has sophisticated weapons. I learned that they have robots that are also combing the tunnels. So even if at some point they get some or most of the hostages that have been held, I think that their mission is way beyond getting hostages. I think it's now become a retaliatory attack, and believe that they can completely decimate Hamas. But like your second speaker or guest said,
David Otto.
Yeah, it's not easy to completely wipe out Hamas, because it's not about just the people or the formation of the group. It is an ideology. So if you kill 1,000 Hamas today, another 1,000 Hamas,
because of course in the process of killing 1,000 Hamas, you're killing people who may not be Hamas, but who you're now turning into their surviving relatives. You're turning them into Hamas. And as you said, I mean, we're seeing what appears to be fierce resistance from Hamas. I mean, they're sending out their own pictures, whilst the Israelis are also doing their PR work. I mean, we've seen quite a number of Israeli soldiers killed even before the Israelis advanced to the gates of Gaza City. That sounds like it's going to be a really difficult job rooting them out. And I mean, so many deaths will surely follow that.
It will be. Also remember
on both sides.
Yes, remember that the commitment of Hamas is to make sure that there is no state of Israel. They don't believe in the two-state solution. And Israel knows this, so Israel says, okay, if you do not believe in our existence, then you should not exist. And I like what David Otto said when we try to explain that politicians might have a vision of what they want, but soldiers might not be able to achieve completely those things that they have dreamt out, which is where you now begin to have some caution. Someone has to be able to reach out to Benjamin Netanyahu and say, this is really
unrealistic.
It's gone totally crazy.
But I actually understand that from the people, that some of the analysts who deal with us and who are in touch with Israel, one or two of them are actually from Israel. They're Jewish, but they're saying that from what they're hearing, there's a lot of concern within the military ranks that they're not getting clearly defined orders from the Israeli government, that it's not clear to them what their objective is.
I can imagine that it is a very chaotic situation for Benjamin Netanyahu.
Because, I mean, he's talking about annihilating Hamas, and people are saying, well, how are we going to achieve that?
Exactly. So it's not an easy situation for any president, for him as a prime minister to be in this situation. And if you have always been an extremist, in this type of situations, it becomes difficult for you, because I can also imagine that some within the military ranks would not agree with him and would not want to go with his order. Or, there are Jewish people that are more lenient, that actually want to see, the existence of Palestinians and themselves. But because of the politicians they have, there's nothing they can do. I think at the end of the day, what might happen is that, there is like a near or total expulsion of Palestinians from Gaza. And I think that would be a disaster. And coming also to what some of your guests have said concerning the response of the Arab world, people dragging feet, and the Palestinians are completely left to their own. It's really tragic that in a situation like this, international community cannot help.
Yeah, it is.
It is sad.
And even the people in that neighborhood, that is the Middle East.
Yes.
A lot of the people that you would think are sort of the cousins of the Palestinians, they themselves their responses have been very measured.
Yeah, because the other thing is that Israel has over the years, and even the United States, tried, to make peace with a couple of all these nations. And as it is, I don't think anyone wants the wrath of the United States, because if you join this war, the United States is going to join this war. Do you want to stand up against the United States? That's the problem. And so you look around, okay, where am I going to get help from? Are you going to get help from Russia or China? So it's complex and complicated, and we're just going to watch and see how things unfold.
Yeah, of course, one of the countries that's in the sights of the United States is Iran, because Iran is seen as a troublemaker in that part of the world. I wonder how much this war might end up showcasing Iran's might across the region with its proxies. Because, I mean, Hezbollah is its proxy, Hamas is its proxy, a lot of others are its proxies. And if that could end up boosting Iran's influence in the region.
I mean, I'm not a military expert, but like some of your guests had said earlier, Iran also is watching. It's not eager to jump into the fray, and Iran cannot do it alone. If other Arab nations are not coming along with Iran, what type of military power does it have? Yes, okay, there is other groups like Hezbollah and all of that. Are they enough to stand up to Israel? You know, I don't think any of them can match the military power.
Well, I mean, I
States.
doubt if they'd go into direct confrontation. It would be more of a sort of a terror type thing, hitting installations across the Middle East and so on. But
and then so you now incur the wrath of being dragged into this, and the wrath will come upon your nation. Do you want the intervention of the United States in your own countries?
Well, it's
That's
a bit of a
different.
mess, isn't
Exactly.
it? But Dr. Constance, I want to thank you very much indeed. Dr. Constance Ikokwu is a journalist, political affairs commentator, and a Rise News analyst. I start to wilt on a Friday night.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Thank God it's Friday.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
You too.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again next week. From me and the entire team here in Abuja and London, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.